After a decade-long campaign by the Guardian newspaper, which was resisted by high-ranking officials and senior politicians, correspondence between Prince Charles and government ministers has finally been published. The letters, which cover an 8-month period between 2004 and 2005, show the heir to the throne expressing robust views on a wide range of policy matters, including to the then Prime Minister Tony Blair. In one of his most strident criticisms, he told Mr Blair that the armed forces, who were then heavily involved in Iraq, had insufficient resources. Clarence House has defended the Prince, sharing what it calls his unique perspective. With our first report tonight, here's our royal correspondent, Peter Hunt.
A man who'll one day be king and who has no formal role until that day dawns has for decades attempted behind the scenes to influence government policy. His lobbying has been in private. These letters provide the briefest of glimpses of the princely modus operandi. The hereditary monarch-in-waiting sent lengthy letters to elected ministers grappling with the issues of the day. The exchanges are cordial. At one stage, Mr Blair notes that we are at one. Writing to the Prime Minister in February 2005, the heir to the throne presses home the need, as he sees it, for drastic action to tackle tuberculosis in cattle.
I do urge you to look again at introducing a proper cull of badgers where it is necessary. I, for one, cannot understand how the badger lobby seem to mind not at all about the slaughter of thousands of expensive cattle and yet object to a managed cull of an overpopulation of badgers. To me, this is intellectually dishonest.
Prince Charles fires off letters about an eye-watering range of subjects: historic buildings, herbal medicine, the albatross, healthy food, and in a missive to the Environment Minister Elliot Morley, sustainable fishing.
I particularly hope that the illegal fishing of the Patagonian toothfish will be high on your list of priorities, because until that trade is stopped, there is little hope for the poor old albatross, for which I shall continue to campaign.
Charles's challenge is that this correspondence will not generate a unified response to the activities of a prince who will one day occupy the unifying role of head of state. His critics will accuse him of secret meddling. His supporters insist he cares about the issues he raises and he is only doing his duty.
Clarence House has warned the publication of the Black Spider letters, so named because of the thick, dark ink they were written in, can only inhibit Prince Charles's ability to express the concerns and suggestions of the people he meets. But the Labour MP Paul Flynn said it was right for the public to know about the exchanges between the Prince and ministers.
Some of his views are splendid and advanced. Some of them are eccentric and some of them are balmy. He's going to be the head of state, and we should know what the views of the head of state are. Is he suitable for the job? Will he interfere with government policy and possibly imperil the impartiality of the Crown?
The Conservative MP, Michael Ellis, defended the content of the letters and said the Prince was perfectly entitled to send them.
If he was a dissolute Prince of Wales partying the whole time and taking no interest in public life, people would consider that reprehensible. Here's a man who's writing about agriculture, the green agenda, and he's concerned about these issues, and I think in the same way that MPs receive letters all the time, I think he should be allowed to write letters too, and in fact encouraged to do so.
"20 years ago, the gallery put on the first Vermeer retrospective ever. 22 of only some 35 Vermeers known to exist, 2/3 of his work. The show was a big hit, despite some major problems. Dutch master Johannes Vermeer's paintings made a huge impression.
Even people who could not come. I even got a letter from a prisoner in Leavenworth.
Arthur Wheelock curated the exhibition.
Who obviously could not come, but he just knowing that this was there somehow made him feel better about life.
Crack of dawn, people lined up to get in.
5 a.m, 3 a.m.
For what time? What time did you open?
10.
In the middle of all the Vermeer excitement, the federal government shut down. President Clinton, House Speaker Newt Gingrich, and the Republican Congress choreographed that little maneuver.
And then we had in Washington these amazing blizzards where D.C. was closed.
And so was the gallery, 19 days out of a 3-month exhibition. But once the doors were open and the crowds rushed in...
It was the quietest show I've ever been in. People just would stand and reflect. this sense of reverential experience of being in that company of all these great treasures.
Now, one of those treasures is back at the National Gallery to mark the anniversary. Woman in Blue reading a letter from the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam. She stands in profile, bathed in Vermeer's pale yellow Northern European light. On the table in front of her, a strand of pearls and the first page of her letter.
I think she's standing there doing her morning toilette, getting dressed, and the letter has arrived.
And she has stopped everything to read it. An exquisite moment of concentration. What's the letter say? Who wrote it? Why her trace of a smile? Vermeer never tells. I think it's from someone very far away, maybe on one of the trading ships making the Netherlands so rich in the 1600s. Maybe someone she loves.
I think that's a great interpretation. I'm sure anybody in this room looking at these paintings would come up with their own little story. And that's one of the wonderful things about Vermeer, is he allows all of us to engage in our own personal way.
The scene is so intimate. Is there a sense that this moment in which she is engaged, that we are invading it as viewers? We are invading her privacy?
I think we always approach Vermeer quietly because we're not been invited in. And generally there is some object, a piece of furniture, separating us from her. And so we are kept at a distance.
Respectful, yes, even reverential, and caught up with her in her gorgeously painted moment of concentration. Woman in Blue reading a letter remains at the National Gallery until December 1st. In Washington, I'm Susan Stamberg.